Hey, let's talk about games. Hello there brothers and sisters. Today we're going to be starting a Deathwing guide series by breaking down each of the classes. Today's highlight is going to be the Apothecary. I'm going to be talking through the skills, I'm going to be talking through the weapons and what situations to use them in, and then we're going to be talking through some general gameplay advice. Now even if you don't play the Apothecary, some of these tips may well still leak over a little bit, so they may be of some use to you. So to kick things off, let's break down the skills first. So skill number 1. When you first go into a mission, you start off with a basic healing ability. Unfortunately, you do have to walk up to the ally and whack them with your little drill in order to apply the healing. Now, ability number 2, when you unlock it, is a self-heal. Don't ask me where the drill goes, but it ends up giving you a healthy amount of life and a little bit of a boost. Ability number 3 is a AoE heal, and perhaps one of the best abilities in the game. It does an AoE dot heal over time, several seconds of a reasonable chunk of life per second. This is without a doubt one of the best ways to survive those oh crap moments when you're really getting surrounded and overwhelmed. Obviously it's not going to save anyone from getting one shot by a max damage lictor, but it is incredibly useful for taking down a swarm where you are getting mobbed. Now to break down the weapons as to which ones I would suggest for which situations, the Storm Bolter really does get overlooked in a lot of situations. It is the jack of all trades, but it is more than capable of killing most enemies. It has the advantage of having slightly higher range than a lot of the other ranged weapons, but don't forget about it, it's worth using. But if you want to trade some of that range damage for a little bit more close quarters damage, the Redemption Bolter is of course there. It's basically a handheld shotgun. It has lower ammo capacity, but it does also come with a little bit of a knockback for the enemy, so it's quite useful if you do start to get, well, enemies coming into melee range with you. You can knock them back a little bit, buy yourself a little bit of time. It's a pretty handy weapon. Of course, it falls off at longer range. Now the Hellfire weapon. Very fun to use. Much better anti-armor, lower rate of fire. It applies a small stun when you do hit enemies and applies some splash damage too. It's very good. Don't worry too much about the AoE damage damaging your allies if you've got friendly fire off, or friendly fire on even. It does do a little bit of AoE damage to your friends, but it's not going to blow them up in 1 or 2 hits, unlike other weapons. Moving on, here we have the Lightning Claws. Now if you want to use these, fair enough. I would perhaps say that you're a bit of a nutter, because the idea of a healer going in to whack things in melee, well, that's just to me a little bit backward. Last one now, the Storm Bolter Mark II. Now the Mark II is similar to the one, but it applies a little bit of a higher rate of fire and a little bit of a lower damage. Think of it a bit like an Uzi. It's fun to use, the recoil is wacky and crazy, but hey, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. It has its place in the world. Now let's go through some gameplay tips and advice for you. Remember, as the healer, if you're the first person to die in a fight, the chance of your group wiping goes up tremendously. So try and make sure the assaults, try and make sure that the melees, try and make sure that the heavy gunners are all going in first, and let them die if needs be. You should have a tactical to res them, but resing a healer is not particularly handy, because when you come back all of your skills will be on cooldown and you will be useless for a set amount of time. Try and position yourself within the middle of the group when you can, so that way you can apply that AoE heal to them whenever needed. Now, remember as well that healing will grant you experience, and you need to level up in order to unlock your better abilities, or basically your self-heal and AoE heal, so never be shy, always try and heal allies whenever you can. Yes, there'll be that odd time when you don't have a heal up because you used it to do a 10% of a yellow arm on one of your friends, but it's really worth trying to get that experience. Just let people know when it's on cooldown, and then if they go off and die, blame them. Now tip number 4 I touched on a little bit earlier, and that is play fairly passive for the first level. Because you don't have a self-heal, if you do take a lot of damage and if that accumulates over time, you're gonna die because you can't heal yourself for a fair while. Be especially careful of auto gunfire, just because you're not going to be able to stomach too much of it. But once you've got that self-heal, take a little bit of extra damage if you like, because the extra healing, of course, is going to lead to extra experience. Now tip number 4 is perhaps the most useful one of all of them, and that is don't forget you've got a damn gun. The amount of times we see apothecaries running around maps that just forget to shoot anything as if they've only got a healing ability. Yes, it involves a little bit of multitasking, but try and position yourselves where you can still contribute a little bit of damage, because you are generally going to be about a quarter of the firepower on a team, so you're still very, very important in terms of dishing out a little bit of pain. But of course you need to find that happy little compromise where you're dishing out damage, but you're also not on the front line. Guys and girls, that's enough to get you started with the Apothecary. Let me know which one you want to see next down in the comments below. I'm going to be aiming to do a different one every single day this week. Remember to like and subscribe, click that little bell down there, that way when I make a new video for this series, you're not going to miss anything. See you next time.